Today, it's my absolute pleasure to introduce our incredible guest, Asma Sharafi. So, a little bit about Asma before we get started. Asma is the Senior Vice President of Partnerships and Strategy at Ensurge Micropower, where she leads the company's commercial strategy, customer programs, and also ecosystems partnerships. This is for accelerating the adoption of next generation solid state microbattery technology. A recognized leader in advanced battery innovation and manufacturing scale up, Asma brings deep expertise spanning product development, industrialization, and global cross functional leadership. So prior to joining Ensurge, Asma served as the CEO of PowerCo US as a part of the Volkswagen Group. So there she led the US industrialization of the solid state battery technology in collaboration with QuantumScape. She oversaw the program delivery, governance, product readiness, and also the manufacturing strategy. Her career involves senior roles across the battery and clean energy ecosystems, driving technology to market transitions, building high performance teams, and also delivering breakthrough energy solutions for customer electronics and e-mobility and also energy storage. So at Ensurge, Asma focuses on building strategic customer relationships and defining product roadmaps and also forging new partnerships, including a development collaboration with Corning to bring ultra-thin, high-energy microbatteries to market. So she's widely regarded for her ability to bridge deep technical insight with strategic clarity and also guiding organizations through complex development cycles from concept to commercialization. So let's welcome Asma.
Thank you so much for the nice introduction. I look forward to having a conversation with everyone here and hopefully just, if it can trigger anything and build my network and getting connected to the battery community for sure.
Yeah, super excited to have you, Asma. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So we'll ask the first question that we ask this of all the interviewees in Volta events. So what is your state of charge today?
Oh, it's end of the year. My state of energy is 75%. I'm definitely energized with the work we're doing, and I'm deeply committed to the battery sector. And I acknowledge that today in the current environment across battery sector, a lot of us are struggling through the reorganization, reshaping, the pressure of resource allocation, the risk. And I just want to openly acknowledge that. But I'm holding up to that 75% energy to keep going. We should not give up. It is a dip in the trajectory, and we're going to grow. We're going to work together. And I'm holding on to that 25% so I can connect with the people. I can connect to the team. And if anyone is challenged or going through something and they just want to sit and have a conversation and I can have that support, I'm holding on to that 25% just for you, for my team, to just help them grow and go to the next step.
Yeah, I think that's super important. Like, it is a tricky time to be in the industry, so we sort of reach out and help each other get there. But yeah, like you said, I'm also like super positive about the trajectory of the battery industry. It's just even even stock prices, right? It goes up and down, but
Yes.
like overall, it'll be a steady increase.
Exactly.
Maybe we can get started with your career journey and leadership.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe from the beginning, what inspired you to enter the battery industry? And basically, how did your career path lead you to your current role at Ensurge?
Yeah, definitely. I would say my career journey has been on two things. One, that I'm fascinated by how things are built, and I want to work on technologies that will have an impact at the global scale. When I was younger, I was a kid, I saw my dad in Iran. He had his own factory, and I walked with him the line. I saw how the raw materials connected with the machineries and the people turn into a product. And every day there's a challenge of the product specification, the customer requirement, the fires that are going on, and you have to put down the fire while the other one comes up, the quality assurance and the changes in the product to really be the right market fit. So I observed that, and that was my inspiration to get into an engineering field to see how I can support him. But I left him in Iran and I came to US. But over the course of time in my education, I got to learn about batteries. I remember during my master's degree, I learned about LFP materials, and I started learning about batteries. I'm like, oh, I love battery field. And I continued my PhD working on advanced battery technology. I got into learning how we can enable the use of lithium metal with the use of solid state electrolyte, the advanced battery technology, where you can push the boundaries of the current technology, lithium ion batteries, beyond lithium ion batteries. And at the beginning at Ford and Rivian, I work on R&D aspect of the technology to see what would be the right material set, the right cell design that we can go beyond what lithium ion batteries are working on, and don't stay with the cell. I also started learning about the system integration, what it takes for building modules and packs. And then eventually, when I went to Cuberg, I defined a requirement with the customers, learned to see, okay, we have this first generation of the technology that has a lot of gaps from the performance or safety, and what would be the validation that it is required to say this technology is a feasible technology. And then eventually, I transitioned into a leadership role just because I wanted to go beyond the R&D. I wanted to take that innovation from lab to market into the hands of the customers, into an application. So I joined PowerCo, and we were working on and focused on the solid-state battery technology in the partnership that Quantum Escape had with PowerCo. And most recently, I joined Ensurge as SVP of Partnership Development and Product Strategy, which is very well connected to my background. I am sitting where we're providing solid-state batteries in micro batteries. So a lot of the challenges in the battery, in the solid-state battery, which is related to the defect density as you're trying to stretch the envelope, is gone. It is much more reduced. The cost of solid-state battery production will be much closer to the cost parity that lithium-ion batteries are providing. And what I'm doing today is how I can get the customer requirement and transition them into a product roadmap, and then making sure we have the alignment of the technical team to make sure we can get this technology to the readiness, to the reliability, to the manufacturability at a scale, so we can unblock a lot of the different design space at the system level. It is fascinating to see as I'm talking to our different customers and potential customer and partners, they say, if this technology is available, I'm gonna just work with my system integration and design engineers to open up that design envelope that was blocked just because the battery was previously as a commodity, but now I see it as an innovation that I have to think about and focus on, so I can take this variable, the implantables, beyond what they are like providing to our customers or our patients today.
I think, yeah, this will be a great revolution in the field itself. It can change the way we are thinking about like certain applications and open up new avenues also, right? Like
Yes,
if the solid state battery ends up working. Yeah.
exactly.
You mentioned that you mentioned about your leadership role and the reason for selecting your leadership role. So especially like being a woman in the battery industry, there are a lot of challenges, right? So, what
Mm,
are some challenges that you faced as especially as you progressed into these type of leadership roles across multiple companies?
yeah. So battery sector, I was just in the breakout session was saying how it is unstable. And we are working in an industry that not only the technology is evolving, also our organizational structure is evolving. And in a leadership role, you need to make decisions with imperfect data. You need to make sure that balance the customer expectations with the reality of the technology. Unfortunately, sometimes we feel the technology is somewhere, but then when you're trying to take to that scale up process, or we're trying to put it in the hand of customer, we just realize a lot that has to happen before it was missed. Being a woman in a male-dominated environment, I was in batteries and automotive. It can add to the challenges as you're taking the leadership roles. Yes, you need to develop your technical expertise in order to secure a, a chair at a table. And then you need to make sure you have the composure, you have the clarity, you are providing data-driven information to your board, to your technical team, so you can hold on to that chair at the table, you know. So I would say, as a in the leadership role, you always want to make sure to have and build that technical foundation while you're making sure your communication, that clarity, that consistency exists in your role. And then one last piece, I would say, I always try to learn from, as you're trying to go from R&D to the commercialization, it is part that is really testing your leadership, and it takes a very unique leadership set, because as leader you need to define direction, make sure you're unblocking the pathway and the struggles that the team has. You create a cross-functional teams. What I've learned is there's a lot of silos that exist. R&D in their silo are developing. As soon as we're trying to cross and hand off to manufacturing, a lot of the items are broken. So one thing that I learned and I feel is a challenge is creating that cross-functional momentum between the teams, from the supply chain to the finance to the customers to the manufacturing team to the R&D team. So they all having how those handoffs, how those cross-functional setups had to work in order to make sure what they're developing can transition, and really building the bridges, making sure the team feels they are a part of the process and they are aware of the challenges you're facing, the reasoning behind the pivots that you have to make, creating flexible roadmaps, and have the humility to pivot as the science is proving you need to make that pivot. So creating flexibility to the point that you can bring those in as science is proving you well, you then consider one part that will help you adapt and move in this volatile, or I would say unstable environment that we're operating within.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very relevant piece of advice especially in the current market. And ability to be flexible is like a key metric. And only then, right? Only if we eliminate these types of silos, can only
Yes.
then we can get into like our proper full potential. Like not just like individual wise, but also like on the company level. That's super
Exactly.
important to build those bridges and be
Mhm.
flexible in your approach. So
Exactly.
I wanted to switch gears a little bit onto more of your technical and strategic vision. So, what do you think are like the emerging battery technologies or chemistries that you believe have the most
Mhm.
impact in the next 5 to 10 years?
One thing that I want to emphasize, just because I've worked on advanced battery technology, it is interesting to see how people are like, so when is solid state battery replacing lithium ion batteries? No technology is going to replace the other one. I am happy to see there is a battery diversification. There is a huge number of technologies that are out there. We should acknowledge that LFP and LMFP, due to the fact that they have a high cycle life, the safety, and the dollar per kilowatt hour for application that are in mass produced market, you mass produce electric vehicles or energy storage, will be the one that will lead the technology path. As soon as we're talking about drones or aviation, that is when you care about the watt hour per kg. That is when now you're talking about lithium metal chemistries in the context of solid state, or if you can have special recipe that you can enable the use of lithium metal technology in lithium ion batteries or liquid electrolyte system. That is when you are affording to let go of the cost that might be higher at the beginning, because it is mission critical for you to have that higher energy density. When we're talking about micro batteries, whatever per liter matters. So now how can you really take this technology, the solid state battery, to be the right fit? Sodium ion batteries are another one that I think is going to emerge. They're not going to replace LFPs. They're going to be complementing just because they are abundant, they can get to the cost parity, they have a lot of synergies between the lithium ion batteries. So one thing that I can say is all of these emerging technologies, it is adding to the product portfolio, the battery portfolio that we have in the market. It's just a matter of understanding what technology will fit the best into the application that we're going based on the KPIs that we have, performance, safety, and cost, and ensuring that we are securing the supply chain. It is manufacturable and creating that diversification so we're not blocked. As I mentioned, you're unblocking a lot of design options at the system level by providing something that lithium ion batteries today cannot provide. And we need to advance, and we can't rely on the foundation that lithium ion batteries is creating for the supply chain, for the material flow, for the network, the infrastructure, and making sure we can build upon that foundation as we're progressing to work on different technologies and different battery technologies. So I don't have one emerging technology that I would say will be the one. I'm just saying it is going to be more and more added. And as soon as we get to that manufacturability, that the cost parity, then we can just unblock a lot of design options in future for ourselves.
I mean, I think, yeah, we should totally balance like performance, safety, cost, sustainability. Like these are super important when we're making these type of strategic decisions about emerging battery technologies. Yeah. And just curious, like now I want to talk a little bit about women in batteries, and this is also a tricky time for like new grads and younger women who are entering into the industry. So, what advice would you give to like younger women who are entering these type of technical roles in energy storage?
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say as new engineers, definitely women potentially have much more challenge. Um, know the value you're bringing to the team. Don't question that. You belong in every single room. Don't question that. And how you can build that is create that technical depth, that technical understanding. So you know the physics behind how the technology works, you understand the limitation, you understand the risk, and then try to work on the clarity of communication and create data behind what you say. And never question your capability. Don't be sort of shocked or afraid of asking questions. Your knowledge matters. And by asking the questions, you can then try to better understand the problems that exist. If you don't ask questions, no one will bother to maybe explain it to you. The other piece that I will give is mentorship. I would say surround yourself with the right people, with the right mentors and sponsors. Just because for me, what I experienced, my mentors opened up the doors for me that I didn't know they existed. It is important to find out who are the right mentors for you, to just give you the right information so you can validate your assumptions and make sure you're basing your decisions, if it's technical or a career decision, based on the right assumption. So that would be something that I will highly emphasize. And again, remember, you belong in every single room. And the team who values your opinion is a diversified team who's going after a very hard challenge, and they need to understand and hear you out. Even if you're wrong, it is okay. Tell your opinion and make sure that everyone is aware of how you're thinking about the problem. And as a result of it, you're going to engage with a lot of conversations.
Absolutely. I think mentorship plays a key role, right? Like we need to attract and particularly also retain like female talent in the battery technology and manufacturing. We
Mm-hmm.
do see like an imbalance in the ratio of men to women. So having this type of mentorship activities will play a key role, like not
Exactly.
just now, but also into the future, like in helping them navigate through like which stream to select, right? In the battery engineering and things like that.
Yes, exactly.
Um, that brings me to my next question. Like, have you faced any implicit bias or barriers in your career? And What's your advice for navigating them based on your experience?
Yeah, so definitely, mainly as a woman in a very male-dominated environment, there are meetings that you're underestimated, you are not heard, people talk over you, they get your opinion, they present it as it is their own without giving credit to who you are and what you are. And what I learned, it was impacting me, it was impacting my confidence. But then over the course of time, reflection, talking to my mentors who went through the similar experience, I learned that the biases is not reflection of your capability. It is not the reflection of my capability. It is reflection of their assumption. So what I did was to change the assumption by working again, collecting data, making sure what I'm talking, when I'm talking, when I'm opening my mouth, it is about the data that I have worked on. Thank you so much for all of the clapping. And really prove that their assumption is wrong. And if you are going after the data, if you are presenting with clarity, you have the right communication channels, and you're still fighting, and 90% of your daily job is to convince people to just hear you out, and it's just fighting, and it's about politics than really driving the technology, then maybe you need to just step back and say, is this the right information? Is this the right um, environment for me to operate within, you know? And yes, you might need to decide to leave. And then go to an environment and make sure you as a woman also are taking that sort of a step in providing that inclusive environment. And I started being more active, create that psychologically safe environment for my team, be inclusive and hear everyone's out, and making sure if younger engineers who might just like say their opinion but not backing it with data, just tell them, hey, like go and showcase to me, prove me this is the right one. And that is how you can again rely on that technical foundation, build upon that communication and composure that you have, and hopefully have your voice heard. And again, it is their assumption, it's not the question of your capability.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I think data is the key to make the decisions, and we really need to be robust, like especially like for anyone who questions us, right? Like we need to have a proper backing with data, and that can help bolster all our assumptions.
Exactly.
Especially given this, do you see that the leadership is evolving in the next generation of battery companies, like particularly for women executives?
I would say yes. I think what I see as we're growing is transparency. The collaborative leadership is something that we have to have. And I think as a women executives, that is a trait, that is the empathy, that transparency, that system thinking is a part of nature of women. And I think by providing that opportunity, going through this shift, women executive can really adapt themselves much easier. It is not going against their trait, it's against their nature. The reason that transparency matters is I was a part of engineering team. Whenever my executive and my leadership come and say, this is what I want you to do, it was hard for me to really get going. But as soon as they came and told me, this is why I'm telling you what to do, then they gave me purpose. Then they gave me that transparency of this is the reasoning, this is our objective, align your objective and get me to buy in to their idea. And that transparency is something I feel we're transitioning into. I see how decisions are not being built and being made behind the closed doors. Even if they are being made behind the closed doors, there are more fruit for us as engineers to think about. The other
Mhm.
part is like creating that, building the bridges is another part that I feel we need to go. We see the failures. We are learning our lessons that the reason a lot of the technology, a lot of innovations that had a lot of potential didn't make it through and they failed, it's not because technology was not ready. It was about the people, it was about the process, it was about that cross functional dexterity that we had to have. And again, I feel that is going to be the leadership style change. It was really amazing to see in the battery show, everyone acknowledged we under deliver to what we promised as a battery community. Let's work together. Let's create those partnership. And that's why I'm in this partnership role to see as a startup company, you cannot just build it all. You need to make sure you're motivating the team. It is an unstable environment. Create that stability for your team so they feel they are valued. You give them that purpose, the why behind the what. And then you work through the whole ecosystem so you can work together to take the technology from where it is with the people, invest on your people, not only your equipment to take it to the next level.
Yeah, I think that's very nicely said. We have to build allies across the industry. There's
Exactly.
no way you can start from like scratch. Like we need to take an advantage of things that are happening across the industry and
Mm,
know that we're all in it together.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So maybe thank you, Asma. So I just want to wrap this up with like a lightning round. So quick questions, quick answers, and basically whatever comes to your mind first. So
Let's
the
go for it.
first word that comes to your mind when you hear energy storage.
Resilience.
One piece of battery technology you wish existed today.
Ooh, I have that dream from when I was a PhD, self-healing interface. That
Oh, that's
whenever there's a
amazing.
dendrite or a defect, it just self-heals. Whew, problem solved.
Oh man, we'll have the fastest charge ever.
Exactly.
So, what was the last book or podcast that blew your mind?
Last one. Oh, well, I would say I had a recommendation by a great friend, The Entangled Life by Merlin. I forget the last name, I'm bad with names, but it's an amazing book. I highly recommend. It talks about the interconnected fungi life, the World Wide Web that is like the biggest organism. And what you see is that mushroom on the surface while everything is connected underneath. And you can get nutrition from this part of the world to the other side of the world. And how anything evolves, it is through that ecosystem, not isolation. So I would say we need that in our battery world. And I can resonate in every aspect of my life that break those isolation, create that world wide web, that interconnection. So highly recommend the Entangled Life.
Okay, I know what I'm going into next. So, this is an interesting question. So, who's an historical figure that you'd like to have dinner with? It doesn't have to be battery related, it can also be non-battery related.
Can I take them for brunch? I love brunches.
Okay.
I would say Mercury is someone I'm gonna take her for a hike, then I'm gonna land in the Half Moon Bay for a brunch, just because it's not about the science, it's about how she navigated the environment when women were not heard. So I would love to just see what I can learn from her to navigate the environment that we're within.
I don't know how she did it. Like, if we find it hard right now, like even with the presence of like these type of networks, imagine like it's just crazy, like what all she's done in spite of all
Exactly.
the odds.
Yes.
So my last question, what is one word to describe the future of the battery industry?
Future of accelerating. We'll say we need that to accelerate all of these navigation and then the future that we're going after, mainly with AI being one of the key ones ahead of us.
For sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Asma. This is super insightful. And now I'd like to open up the floor to our audience to ask any questions. So please raise your hands if you have any questions for Asma, and then you can unmute yourself. Josette, do you want to start?
Yes, thank you so much, both of you. This was really wonderful, and I know I took a lot of notes. I am curious, Asma, and actually anyone, from Volta as well. What advice? I'm a non-technical person. I've done marketing in the battery, yeah, grid scale battery. I'm now in the data center side of things. And what do you wish non-technical people understood better or more about the technical side of things? Or like if you could shake everyone and say like this I want you to know to non-technical people like myself, what would you say?
I would say is when we're talking about that cross-functional conversations and that cross-functional teams build breaking those silos, we need to have a common language. A part of it is technical. So you want to just know enough to make sure the questions you're asking, the things, the decisions that you're making, however it's going to impact the technical part of it, has that foundation required. And that comes with being curious. Just be curious. Sit with your team and talk with them. Tell me, educate me. Battery 101, whatever is that piece, and find out what are those essential pieces you need to know in order to resonate with the team that you're working on. That would be the best little step you can take in order to talk the same language.
I love that. It's a feat.
And tell them they need to learn your language because it is not only on you to know their language, so they need to be able to communicate with you.
Yeah, it's feeding two birds with one stone. I love it. Thank you.
Exactly.
Todd, did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. Hi, this is Todd Ostemel from Squire Patton Boggs. Asma, you have one of the most impressive battery resumes in the industry, and I'm very curious. In so many battery conferences, I hear about the dominance of China relative to America, and I'd be curious to know what your perspective is as to where can America lean in, and where do we have strategic value that could become competitive in the future, as opposed to just sort of relinquishing our place in the battery industry to, China.
I would say one thing that I learned is, but like, did we lose a battle? We did not lose a battle. We definitely cannot rely on the same models that worked at Asia. We need to find out and learn what is the strength in the US and have regulation and the government to really support our activities. We've been just working and focus on funding our innovation, but we have to go beyond that. And the way we can do that is building that infrastructure, the ecosystem that I talked about, in order to enable taking these innovations. So our engineers don't have to go abroad in order to take their technology. And the way to do that is really investing on our talent, having the government to support with the regulation, with the funding support. We are building hardware. It takes cost, it takes time, it takes discipline. And will all three come together, investing not only on equipment and our people, creating the infrastructure. It is amazing to see how people are really focused on recycling or working on the components or working on AI, so you can learn from manufacturing and preventative maintenance. So these are the different pieces of the puzzle that has to come, and these are the strength that we have. So instead of copy pasting what is working in China, which wouldn't work in the US, rely on our strength and build upon that to differentiate ourselves and be competitive in the market.
Thank you.
We have time for like one last question. Militza?
Yeah, thank you, Asma. We had some time to talk a little bit early at the networking breakout session. Well, my main question to you is looking back, right, on your career, because it has been a lot of years putting the effort to be kind of like the right professional, right, and also to keep learning. So looking back on your career, what's one lesson or piece of advice that you can recommend and you wish you had to know a little bit early in your career, being a woman in the technical sector that it's a little bit challenging in energy sector. So looking back on your career, what's one lesson or piece of advice you wish you had received early in your career?
I would say I mentioned some of it, but beyond that, one thing is I never saw any of my experiences as a failure. At the moment, you feel down. Oh my God, like I failed here. But now I would say use it as a learning opportunity. What did I learn? All of the history and the failures and ups and downs built Asma. This is who I am because of those baggage that I have behind me. So I would say never see anything as a failure. Just find out what can I do differently so I am much more successful. And success is like you have a trajectory, you thought you're going to be here, and if you get there, you're there and you're successful. If failure is if you're not there, but maybe your assumptions were wrong, and find out how you can get there. And again, the best piece of advice will be surround yourself with the people who open the doors for you before you even realize they are there. It's really important. Getting the opportunity and exposure to express who you are and providing that environment for you. When you are in an environment that everyone is very competitive and no one wants to hear, and everyone says, I am the one, then that is not the right environment to be within. Remove yourself, give yourself a space, and find out how you can navigate. And the last piece will be big picture. Learn about the big picture. We unfortunately always are focused on our day to day that we forget about the big picture. Once you have that, then it is easier for you to understand your teammate, you understand your executives, you understand the technicians you're working with, you understand everyone. And then you work as a part of that ecosystem instead of your own silo.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Those are all great questions. I'd love to keep chatting, but it's nearing 9, so I have to wrap up the questions. Thank you very much, Asma, for taking the time to share your insights. Your accomplishments in the battery industry are just absolutely incredible, and I think we all feel empowered to pursue and continue the career in batteries. So before we end